Well, hello and welcome back. We are continuing our season of building better foundations, but we are building better developers as well. We are also developing. We are so many things to so many people. I am one person, though. I am Rob Broadhead, one of the founders of Developreneur, also the founder of RB Consulting, where we are a technology firm that helps you assess your technology and build a roadmap for success. Good thing, bad thing. Good thing is my schedule is getting just full. I got so much stuff going on, so many things out there. We've like been networking and we're doing interviews and being a guest on stuff. Check out rb-sns.com/rob.php and you can see all the different places, the other podcasts that I have been on along with this. There's some great conversations out there. Lots of them are AI related, very much like the guy we're going to talk to in another minute here. We're getting into part two of our interview with Hunter Jensen. Bad thing is my schedule is stinking full. It is hard to like breathe basically these days, but I'm going to take a breath now while Michael introduces himself.
Hey everyone, my name is Michael Malash. I'm one of the co-founders of Developreneur, Building Better Developers. I'm also the founder of Envision QA, where we help businesses build reliable software through custom development and expert testing. Good thing, bad thing. Bad thing, it's kind of slash good thing, been extremely busy lately. Good thing, I've actually started dusting off my test generation tool again and getting that kind of modernized and maybe even dabbling with a little AI.
That's always a good thing. It's amazing how much it's bonus tip out there is that if you've got an old application, run it through AI. It is amazing how quickly you can get things like updated and dusted off and make it look all modern and stuff like that. Don't let your head explode while you do so, though. We will dive right in because this has been part one was great. Hopefully you caught it. If not, pause, go listen to the prior episode. And now we're going to step into part two of our discussion with Hunter Jensen. So where do you see in the next, I don't know, the next 5 years, maybe, because I know it's like you get beyond that and it's going to get, who knows where things are going to be. If we went back 5 years with any of these like projections, there'd be like, oh, I don't think too many people would say, yeah, this is where we're going to be. Um, what do you see like the biggest, or maybe the biggest three, depending on how it works, you look at it, but like benefits of AI to business, how it may, a changing business, I think may be a little bit of a stretch, but like where businesses are going to really find their most value in it, I guess is, keeping it a little more realistic.
Yeah, so I'm going to shorten that timeline. 5 years gets science fiction for me. Um, and so, but like in the next 1, 2, 3 years, let's say, um, okay, so what are we seeing right now? Right now, we're seeing a lot of like what I would call kind of value in kind of back office stuff, the kinds of things that every company, once you get to a certain size, does.
Mhm.
Your HR, your accounting, your research, your what have you. Um, we're already seeing a return on investment in those types of things, right? But what comes next is the thing that you actually do, right? Like what you do as a company. Like if you're a cybersecurity company, your ability to create an HR bot that can answer, whether or not Sally's dental coverage includes Invisalign, like you could do that today. But where it's still kind of very new is using AI to actually help you perform cybersecurity services. If you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And so that comes next. That's the year 2, year 3 part where the actual thing that you do will be greatly accelerated. And so, but so get out to 3 years, and here's what I see. I see a massive increase in the productivity of your team. They can do 5x what they used to be able to do with the same amount of time. And that leads to a surplus and of work hours. I'm already seeing this. It's software development. It happened to software development first because everybody building LLMs are software developers and they're like, oh, it should write code. Isn't that neat? but we can write the same amount of code in a fraction of the time with the same amount of people. Now, what am I going to do with all these developers if I don't have client work, if I don't have code that needs to be written, right? I have a surplus. And, that's going to happen to a lot of other industries. And it's rolling out depending on what industry you are. But if you have a bunch of, junior analysts, let's say, it's going to happen to them as well. You're going to have more analysts than you need. Think about, professional services is actually, I think, like law as an example. It's happening like next year. I'm already seeing, clients of law firms apply pressure saying, hey, I know that this doesn't take you as long as it used to, and I want to see that reflected in my billing. Right. But what does that mean for the attorneys? Do they have enough clients where they can stay busy, even though they can do things in half the time or a quarter of the time and all the rest of it? So as a business, if you're trying to think out, you need to think, what am I going to do with the surplus of knowledge workers when the tools kind of catch up to my industry? And my answer to that is not layoffs. Layoffs are not a growth strategy. You have a good team. You worked really hard to find good people. And the answer is actually, you have to innovate. You have to innovate. You have to skate to where the puck is going, right? The old Gretzky saying, like, and if you don't, you're going to be in trouble because like the status quo. Like I Barefoot Solutions, custom software development company, right? Run it for 20 years. My business model has been basically the same. I sell, design and software engineering services. I bill by the hour. That doesn't work anymore. That model, it's not going to make it much longer. And so what do? I have to innovate. So what did I do? I said, we're shifting to becoming a product company, right? We're building Compass, and we're going to take that surplus coders and have them build this product so that we can go to market with it. And so after 20 years of having the same business model, sure, the technology changed, right? It was web and then mobile and then IoT and then blockchain and then machine learning and all that. But the business model stayed the same. That's how drastic of a change this is that I had to completely rethink the business model. And I think, to go back to the attorneys, they need to completely rethink their business model. If you're providing professional services and you bill by the hour, you like, this train is coming for you, right? And you need to innovate. You need to maybe change how you bill, right? Value-based pricing versus hourly pricing. Like, there are solutions here, but you cannot maintain what has worked for you for a very long time, what has worked for attorneys for millennia.
Yeah, I think this may be the thing that finally kills the old, way back now, I guess 56 years old, the mythical man month kind of approach of, like, which in software development is just full of it, where it's like, it's always so about hours that, excellent number of lines of code that can be generated per hour and all that kind of stuff, is that it really is, I think, going to break it because same thing, sitting in an industry in a where you're service oriented like this, but it's based really on hours to generate an application or to generate code. The pricing models are out, are completely out the window at this point, because like what you did 6 months ago that took you 8 hours, and okay, this is what it's going to take me to do this. The estimates are now going to be completely, trash, basically, because you're going to have to reset it and figure out, okay, what does it take for me to actually build this now with this influx of tools? And especially since it feels like a moving target, because we're getting better and better versions of this very quickly. That what we could do, I'm seeing even 6 months ago, there's an improvement in productivity, today versus in such a short period of time. So, is there and since you're in the middle of it, what are your thoughts on, like, if you're in that industry, that situation where you're in service and you're needing to go from hour based to product based? Do you have any recommendations for somebody out there that's sort of struggling with that?
Yeah, it's a hard thing. I'm saying, oh, innovate. Well, how do you do that, right?
Mhm.
But there are some options out there. One is like can you become just a factory? Is there enough demand out there for you to just crank out whatever it is, whatever product or service that you have, right? Like, you know, the printing press gets invented. And so let's start printing millions and millions of books, right? There was a market for that. And so there are some companies where that strategy will work. Like, let's just scale with this technology. But there are a lot of companies that don't have the market for that. I can't just go out and get 100x more software development clients. That's not like realistic. And so, that's when I started thinking, okay, well, maybe we need to kind of build a product that services some of the needs that this new technology is bringing about, right? But across a lot of different industries, there's opportunities. I mean, I was talking to a guy that runs an investment bank, right? They create these like 50, 60 page deal memos, and now they can do them, in a tenth of the time that it used to take. And, they can't become a factory. There's only so many, acquisition deals that they can get. But can they build the tools and sell those tools? Like, can you take a picks and shovels approach to this, right? That they built internally that make it only take 10% of the time to build this stuff out? Like, can you do that? That might be an option as well, right? But you really need to rethink, what your industry is going to look like in the next 3 years, and try to find a path to not just, surviving, but actually, like, massive disruption is a massive opportunity. If you can find the right position, you can be scared or you can be entrepreneurial about it, right? Find the opportunity and go after that. But again, what you can't do is have a wait and see approach. The time it's already happening. Software development is like the canary in the coal mine. It's coming for other industries too. We were just the first.
So with that, for those of us, entrepreneurs, developers that are out there that are not necessarily have our own businesses or starting our own business, what are some of the things that you would recommend that we start doing now to prepare ourselves for this? Because I see kind of two things happening in the industry. One, kind of the newer mid-level developers are out there. They're using AI, but they're losing like the critical thinking skills. And so as I'm trying to grow my business, trying to find the right people that can manage both of these and kind of scale, it's getting harder because they can only use one tool or the other. They're not, we're going to lose that skill set. And then the other thing is, as I'm looking to innovate and kind of grow like different directions, what are some like tips or techniques or things I can look at to kind of give me some ideas and suggestions to grow, to find this innovation?
Yeah. So for the younger folks, um, I mean, I've talked to a good number of folks coming out of school with a computer science degree right now, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry about the timing. When you started that program and decided to spend that money, it was one of the safest things you could have possibly done. The prospects for, recent computer science graduates were incredible. And then 4 years later, and it's a totally different ball game. And so, what I suggest is that you really need to focus on your literacy. Like, as a company, your AI literacy is what I mean. As a company, what do I need? I need folks that can come in and use their critical thinking skills to evaluate all this new technology and to teach the old farts how to use it, right? So again, be entrepreneurial. Where's your value? The value of a very junior software developer, there's not a lot. It's not a lot there right now. Again, it's really bad timing for these young folks. But where can you be valuable is come in and say, well, I've been using these tools for years. I'm an expert at them. I can teach you. and the rest of our team how to do it. I can be part of the tip of the sword in, implementing new technology. Like I know a lot of companies right now that did their like summer interns. That's all they did. They just came in, their big summer internship project was figure out how to deploy AI at this organization, right? And so to the second part of that question, which was, well, okay, as a business owner, or or even just someone starting out, like how do I find the innovation? Like where do I look? And this to me has not changed. As an entrepreneur, where do you look for opportunity? You talk to people. You learn about their problems and you think about whether or not you can solve them. Where did I come up with Compass, my innovation? I was having a beer with a buddy. He's a patent attorney. He said, man, I wish I could use ChatGPT for my job, but I can't. And I said, why? And he said, well, I've got very confidential technology designs sitting on my desk that I can't, even with a protective license, there's no way they would allow me to use something like that. And I said, oh, well, that's interesting. How much time do you think it could save you? About 8 hours a week, probably right now. I said, 8 hours a week. How many attorneys are your firm? 800. What's the average billable rate? $500 an hour. Okay. So if we were able to save 8 hours a week for 800 attorneys at an average billable rate of $500 an hour, we're talking about over $100 million in annual net like value creation there. That's incredible. Let's build that. Right. And so that's what I did. I heard a problem and I saw it, I converted it into an opportunity. And we went and we built Compass, and that law firm was our first customer. And so, it really is a fundamental thing and it should be innate if you're an entrepreneur, is just looking for opportunities, looking for problems and opportunities. They say it's always better to be a pain pill than a vitamin, right? Look for problems that you think this new technology can solve, and go after them and go quick, because the old SaaS playbook, like the lean startup, all that doesn't work anymore. That's broken too. And the reason is that model used to be, you go out, you raise $1 million, you put your head down, you spend 9 to 12 months building your product, and you're in stealth mode. And then you come out and ta-da, here's our product, and nobody has anything like this. And you have a competitive advantage that we call the first mover advantage, right? It doesn't take $1 million anymore, and it doesn't take 9 to 12 months anymore. It only takes a few months. So that, is not going to work moving forward. And the VCs already know that. And you can see that by the shift in strategy and who and what they're investing in right now. And so, you need to take a different approach to find a problem and quickly develop a solution and bring it to market.
Nice. All right. So back to the kind of the students' ideas, because I kind of want to piggyback on what you just wrapped up there. So those of us, or those coming out of school with some idea of how to use AI using APIs and things of that nature, what would be a kind of a stepping stone? Like, how would you encourage them to start getting or using AI for products, to actually start building solutions with AI besides just the usual, the chatbots?
Yeah, I mean, so you can communicate with these large language models via API. You just need to get the right licenses and the right models and all the rest of it. And what I would encourage as a stepping stone is build a proof of concept of something, of some problem that you've been able to identify. And the best way to learn is especially for engineers, is by doing, in my opinion. And so build something, anything. Find someone at some company and say, what would it be helpful if you had a piece of software? What would it do? How can I make your day easier? And they say, oh, well, if I had something that could do this, that would be really helpful for me. Build it. Build that. And you're going to learn so much. And that might not be the groundbreaking thing that you build a whole company around or what have you, but you're going to learn how it all works in the real world. And you're going to have a really great proof of concept that you can show people. Say, look what I can do. Wouldn't it be helpful to have somebody like me on your team? What could I do for you? Because I know how to do this, right? You don't need a big engineering team of people writing code all day anymore for most, not everything, but for a lot of things. Like what could I build for you? I think that would be a nice way to kind of, demonstrate value to organizations. If your goal is to get a job, then that's a path to doing that. Or if you want to evaluate a potential product to start a business around it, you don't need a ton of money and a ton of engineers anymore. You used to, but you don't. Go build your proof of concept, figure it out. There's a vibe code stack out there that what it can accomplish is just absolutely incredible.
So do you see this, because you mentioned a little bit, do you see this really, I guess for lack of a better term, breaking the first mover advantage that we've seen in the past? Because it seems like this is going to be on steroids what we saw in the past, where there would be, you'd get a knockoff that would be turned around in, hours after sometimes, Microsoft spend millions of dollars on Microsoft Word or billions, whatever it was. And then you'd have a knockoff, Word with a Q at the end or something like that was turned around very quickly. Do you see that being something that we're going to have to, as from a business or an entrepreneurial point of view, really change how we think of getting a product out to market?
I'll give you an example. I call this the weekend problem. This was 2023. Diffusion models just come out, like that were any good. And I needed a new headshot for my LinkedIn because I didn't have my beard in my headshot and people weren't recognizing me because I have my beard now. So what I used to do is I would hire a headshot photographer. I'd go to their studio. I'd put my suit on. I'd pay $200 and it'd be like the most painful hour of my life. And then I'd get my headshots and I'd put one on LinkedIn. That's what I would have done 5 years ago. And I've done that, right? And I said, oh, I wonder what AI can do. And I found this website called instaheadshots.com. And I took a bunch of selfies with my iPhone. I was just in a t-shirt. I didn't have any fancy clothes on. And I uploaded them into this site and I paid $20. And I got an excellent LinkedIn headshot that looked exactly like me. According to my wife. Like she was like, this is you. I don't see how this is not you. And I thought, my entrepreneurial brain thought, what a neat business. But then I thought, well, I could build that like over the weekend. And then I realized, oh, anybody could build that over the weekend, right? Mm-hmm. Fast forward 1 month, there's 50 of these and half of them are free because first mover doesn't matter anymore. That's amazing technology 3 years ago. Amazing. If you build something that could do that prior to generative AI, you've got a multi-million dollar business on your hands. Now you have a weekend project on your hands. First mover advantage is no more. It's dead. Now, what is an advantage? Proprietary data. If you can get your hands on data that other people can't, you have a competitive moat. If I was starting a brand new startup tomorrow, what would I do? I would look for businesses that have been around for 50, 60, 70 years that aren't doing anything with their data and identify big opportunities of things that we could do with that data. how could we train this new form of, machine learning models, these large language models, with this incredibly rich historical data set to do something novel that you can only do if you have that data set. That is the new advantage that I think startups should be focused on, is data.
Which is funny because this goes back to if you'd asked, 5 years ago, what is probably going to be the most valuable thing 5 years from now? I have a feeling data would have been right up there when, as big data has just become more and more valuable. I've had customers that are in data sensitive areas like finance and healthcare where that stuff is gold. And companies are starting to figure it out. And I think now this may be where some of the tools are like, well, I've got all this data. How do I work with it? I'm wondering if this isn't going to be sort of like that next step that says, hey, now you can build tools super fast to be able to work with that data. So now you can actually, all that stuff you've been storing, you can actually do something with it instead of just store it.
Right. It was like the general consensus of, we're not quite sure what we're going to do with it, but make sure that you keep it.
Yeah.
Now we know what, like we have tools to know what to do with it. Right. And so I do think that's the next wave here of applications is, being able to interact with your data that you've been collecting for many, many years. That's what my product does, right? That's part of it. And so that is where I see us kind of, or already there. Like to me, first mover is dead. It's no longer an advantage. Full stop.
Yeah, I think you've got like a very minimal window to do anything for a while here with some of these things. I mean, you may have a really genius idea, but that's only going to last for, like you said, in some cases, a weekend or two before somebody else has knocked it out. And then they're just undercutting you because they didn't spend any time. But on the upside, if you didn't really spend any time building it out either, then you could keep the price really low and the value proposition changes immensely for your customers that are out there.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Well, I want to. We're running this again. I told you in the pre-show there, the pre-game that AI would get us going pretty darn quick, and that's just sort of where it is. There's so many. It really is. It's a fun time. I enjoy all these conversations because there's just so much going on out there. There's so many opportunities, and a lot of these things allow you to sort of jump on them sooner rather than later. I don't know how many I've built. I bet I've built a dozen apps in the last 2 or 3 weeks just because, like, oh, this will help me out. This will help me out. So pain points are starting to disappear quickly, and it really frees you up for the next innovative step. But that being said, with your thoughts and how you guys are doing things, I'm sure our audience be interested, and particularly if they've got questions or they've got something that's like, hey, this sounds like the perfect product for me. What's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Yeah. So as a thank you to you, Rob and Michael, for having me on the show, I I want the listeners to know you can get a hold of me at hunter@barefootlabs.ai. And if you say in the opening line, I heard you on Building Better Developers, I promise that I will respond to you. I will respond. And you don't have to be a potential customer. If you just have something you want to talk about, we can talk about it. If you don't say that, I easily may not respond to your email because I get a lot of emails. But mention that you heard me on Build Better Developers. Hit me up at hunter@barefootlabs.ai. Also, just check out our website, barefootlabs.ai. I'm also very active on LinkedIn, and so you can connect with me there. But the best way to do it is to send me an email and mention this podcast.
Excellent. So we will have links in the show notes for all of that. Appreciate your time because it is a busy time, and now more than ever, you probably could have created 3 applications in the time we've been talking. Could have solved some of the world's problems. So we appreciate more than ever the time given to this, and for those of you out there that are listening to it. That being said, it is time for us to wrap this one up and our conversations. And we will come back. We have more episodes right around the corner. Not AI generated. We are all real people with real guests and all that kind of good stuff. But we will be back. Next episode, we will continue with some interviews. Although we do have a little bit of, we've got holiday breaks coming up as well with some of our return to some classic episode styles. That being said, go out there and have yourself a great day, a great week, and we will talk to you next time. One last thing, hunters, we usually do in the video portion of it is we have like a little bonus thing. So I'll just sort of with sort of like a parting shot or something like that. What would be we'll keep it simple. Like, what would be one recommendation you would have to someone that's listened to this episode and is like, okay, I want to do AI. I want to do AI better. What would be a good recommendation from you to take that first step?
I have two.
What?
One, a question I get is how do I stay up to date with what's going on? There's a newsletter. It's called the Rundown AI. It's very good. I read it every morning. That will help you understand the landscape. Two, there's a tool. It's called N8N. Learn it. It is an automation tool that allows you to create kind of workflows and automations that's very low code. That's incredible. It's so powerful. There's so much you can do with it. If you're looking for like a gig on Upwork, be an N8N expert. You could probably pick up some contracts that way.
I have definitely seen a lot of that. There's been a rise of N8N stuff there in particular as well. Like AI in general is now, I bet I would love to see the numbers across the board, but I bet it's got to be 70-80% of the postings in the last 6 months have AI somewhere in there, and N8N is probably not far behind it, probably a large portion of those as well. So definitely, I second that both of those recommendations. Well, we will let you get back to your day. Thanks so much. Like I said, we'll have links in the show notes. We will also send you links to the part 1 and part 2 when they become available. Feel free to share them out wherever you would like. And yeah, other than that, thanks so much, Hunter. And if you have anything, if there's anything I can do to help you, let me know. And we will keep in touch as we get these things released.
Beautiful. Thank you guys. Really appreciate this.
Yeah.
Have a good
Thank
one,
you.
Hunter.
All right. Take care.
Bye.